Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to do some questions from Infosys online test as organized every year, and this year also by this prestigious institution to get the students into their company, to get the students the dream job that they deserve. Now, the best part about Infosys written exam is it's always online. First thing, the next thing, questions are going to come up in different sections. It's not that all of them are going to be clubbed questions. Questions are going to come out in different sections. Sections, if I talk about which all sections are going to be there, so there will be a logical ability section, followed by a section for mathematical ability, a verbal ability, puzzle solving, and a pseudocode part. So mathematical ability, as I've told you, it's only the quants portion that we do. The quantitative analysis that we have been doing, problems related to different topics of quants like time and work, time, speed, and distance, all of that would be asked. Logical ability is given just to check the logic of the student as to how good he is with his logic development, problem solving ability. Verbal ability is then going to be a section where they will check the proficiency of English language, synonyms, antonyms, reading comprehension, maybe some error correction, all those kind of questions. Pseudocode is kind of giving you a choice of language that you want to, maybe C, C plus Java, accordingly, and you will be given a question, and accordingly, you will have to code as to what is the requirement of that code that you have. And puzzle solving will be different puzzles will be given to you, and the difficulty level of those puzzles will go on increasing as you go on solving the problems. So the first question that had come up this year was, let's look at all those questions. I have some questions from the logical ability portion. We're going to discuss those questions. First question that had come up was, below is given a question followed by two statements, statement 1 and 2, as we can see here. Question may or may not be answered with the help of these statements. You have to decide if these statements are sufficient to answer the question. These type of questions, they can come under the heading of decision making is being checked, but they come under the topic of data sufficiency. Now it is not important in these kind of questions that I have to get the correct answer of this question, but what matters to me is I need to have if with the given set, is it sufficient for me to answer those questions? That is, out of the two statements that is given to me, can I answer my question using just these two statements and no other extra knowledge from my own side, but just what is given in the statement? This is what data sufficiency is. Now the option that follows is option A. Option A is only one of the statement alone is sufficient to answer the question, but the other statement is not. So this means that using just the first statement, am I able to answer? Or using just the second statement, am I able to answer? That is being checked. If that is the case, my answer is going to be A. Option B means statement 1 and 2 together are not sufficient to answer the question and additional data is needed. That means even if I combine both the statements, I'm not getting to any answer and I need something extra to solve those questions. Statement C says each statement alone is sufficient to answer the question. That means the statements are so arranged that whatever information is given in these two statements individually, I can use those two statements and answer those questions. So if I'm using just the first statement, I'm getting the answer. If I'm using just the second statement, I'm getting the answer. That in that case, my answer is going to be C. Now, option D means both statement 1 and 2 together are sufficient to answer the question, but neither statement alone is. So this means if some information is given in first, some of which is missing, the missing part is given in second statement. So when I combine both of them together, if on combination I'm getting the answer, in that case my answer is going to be option D. So if on combination of the options I'm getting the answer, my answer would be option D. Okay, now let's look at this question. Since we are clear with what the question is, what the setup is, let's try to look at this particular question. So question, what is the value of x is being asked. Okay, first statement says x minus 2y is equals to 7. Okay, first statement. What I do is the approach is I just first look at the first statement alone. Forget there is any second statement, just look at the first statement. Am I able to get to the answer? I will not be able to get to the answer with just this first statement. So now let's forget there is just first statement. Let's go to the second one. Second one is 4x minus 28 equals to 8y. Let me rearrange it. Let me make it x minus 7 is equals to 2y. X minus 2y is equals to 7. Again, I'm getting at the same end. This is the same thing that is given in the first statement only. Now, if with the first statement I was not able to get the answer, with this also I'll not get the answer. I do not have any information with just the second statement alone. So the first option, that one of the statement alone is sufficient to answer the question, this cannot be my answer. Now when I looked at the statement, both the statement have become same. It's x minus 2y equal to 7, x minus 2y equal to 7. So statement 1 and 2 together, they're not sufficient to answer the question, and I need some additional information. Maybe I need one more equation, or maybe I need one more relation. Only then I'll be able to get to some answer. Each statement alone is not sufficient. C also cannot be my answer. And on combination also I'm not getting some answer. So my answer is option B. That is, each statement, that these two statements are not sufficient to answer the question and some additional information is needed. My answer becomes option B. Next, find the next number of the series. We can see that this series is given to me 4, 196, 16, 169, 36, dash and 64. Okay, now this thing becomes very clear that these are two different series that are followed up. Terms that are at the first, third, fifth, and the seventh position, these are the first series. The second series is numbers at the second, fourth, and sixth position. This is my second series. The blank is obviously a part of this second series that is being followed. Okay, if I look at the first series, 4 I can write it as 2 square. 16 I can write as 4 square. Next, 6 is 6 square. It is 8 square. If in this series only somebody asked me what the next term would be, next term would have been 10 square, that is 100, but that is not asked. What is asked to me is the value of this particular blank. So 196, I know 196 is 14 square. 169 is 13 square. Next term, or this blank, is going to be 12 square, that is 144. My answer is option C, 144. Next, Madan is elder than Kamal and Sharad is younger than Arvind. Who among them is the youngest? Okay, so the question is who among them is the youngest. Some information is already given in the question. Statement is given, Sharad is younger than Madan, Arvind is younger than Kamal. Okay, some of the other information is also given to me. Again, this is a question of data sufficiency. Nowhere asking me to give the exact answer. It is just asking me, is the given data in the form of these statements, is it sufficient to answer my particular question that is being asked? What they're asking me is, Madan, he is elder than Kamal, and Sharad is younger than Arvind. Okay, these two things are given to me. Now, Sharad is younger than Madan. Sharad is younger than Madan. So Madan is obviously greater than Kamal, and Sharad is younger than Madan. Next thing that is given to me is Arvind is younger than Kamal. Arvind is younger than Kamal. So one thing I can make out from here is Madan is elder than Kamal. Kamal is elder than Arvind. Arvind is elder than Sharad, and Madan is also elder than Sharad. So all this information I'm going to get using these two statements. Something was given in the question itself, but when I use these two statements together with the information that was given in the question, I can make out that out of all these people that are mentioned here, Sharad is the smallest of them all, or Sharad is the youngest of them all. Therefore, I can conclude that not just one statement alone, not just the second statement alone, not just usage of either of these two statements, but when I'm combining the two statements together, I'm able to get to the answer. So my answer to this particular question is both statements 1 and 2 together are sufficient to answer the question, but neither statement alone is sufficient. So I need both the statements together to answer this particular question. My answer is option B. Next, in a certain code language, time is coded as YEPC. What is going to be the code for watch? Now, we need to figure out what the pattern is. If we try to figure out the pattern is something like plus, minus, plus, minus. If I go from T U, V, W, X, and then Y. So this is plus 5. If I go from E, then E, F, G, H, I. So it's plus 5 minus 5. Then plus 4 minus plus 4, plus 3 minus 3. This is how it is going on. So it's actually plus 5 minus 5 plus 3 minus 3. Next would be plus 1 minus 1. This is what we have to use out here only. When I use the same for watch, plus 5 minus 5 plus 3 minus 3 and plus 1, I'll get the code. Now one thing that is very important here is for rest of them I can do plus 5 minus 5 plus 1, all of them. But if it is a minus 5, one thing that always has to be kept in mind is numbers are infinite but alphabets are limited. I just have 25, 26 alphabets from A to Z. I just have 26 alphabets. So what if somebody asks me what is the alphabet as the 28th position, or what is the alphabet as the 29th position? I'm not going to start ASCII characters. I will not go for any characterizing in ASCII or all the other things. I can always use these alphabets in loops. Once I have ended up to Z, I can again start from A, B, C, D, and so on. So this loops of alphabets, it goes on. So if I have to do A plus 1, I know it is B. But if somebody asks me what is A minus 1, A minus 1, I can always say it is equal to Z. Or if somebody asks me what is A minus 2, A minus 2 becomes Y. That is, I have to start going in the reverse order. If somebody says what is Z plus 3, Z plus 3, you will not say that the alphabets are ended. Z plus 3 becomes A, B, and C. Answer is C. So alphabets, they can go on in loops. When we use the pattern here, plus 5 minus 5 plus 3 minus 3, my answer becomes B, V, W, I, A. Answer is option B. Next, find the missing term in this particular series. So missing term is actually the last term. Series is 337, 355, 418, 528, 687, and the next term is what we have to find out. Okay. Now, first approach for any series is to look for the difference between the terms. If it was about something squaring, it would have been clear. We would have seen the terms and we would have tried to make out it is regarding the square of the numbers. But 337, 355, 418, these don't look like squares. So what we can do is we can look for the difference between the numbers. So difference between 337 and 355, it's 18. The next two terms difference is 63. Then it is 110. Then it's 159. This difference is not making any sense right now. One thing that I can always do is once I have the difference and the difference is not making sense, either this difference is something like uh, this difference that has happened, it can be something like addition of something and multiplication followed simultaneously. This can be one possibility. Or the next possibility can be we have to take difference of difference to get to the answer. Even the difference of the difference is also one way of getting the answer. And sometimes what happens, difference of difference, they are somewhat in AP or they are in pattern. So if I try to do addition and multiplication, 18 into anything and then getting to 63 is not giving me any 18 2 times 33, 18 3 times 54, and it is not making any sense. So I can go for difference of the difference also. So 18 and 63, if I see the difference is 45. Next two terms, if I see the difference, it's 47. Next two terms, if I check the difference, it's 49. So one thing that is clear here is the difference of difference. This is an AP. So according to that, the next difference that should come up here, it should be 51. Now, if this is 51, that means whatever number is here after 159, let's say this is X, the difference that was there, let's say that is X. So X minus 159 would have been 51. This series that we have found out, it is between the differences of the two numbers that is opted. So this difference, the next difference is actually 210. So here instead of X, it would have been 210. Now this 210 is between 687 and whatever this question mark was containing. So actually, my question mark became 687 plus 210. My answer is 897. That is, the missing number is option D, 897. So basically, difference of difference needs to be considered at many times. The series can be solved using that also. Next question. Some chalk are wires, some wires are flames. Conclusion is some flames are wires. Okay, now this can be solved using tick and cross also. Tick and cross method is a method for deriving conclusions. So either it can be done using that, or it could be done using Venn diagrams also. But if I use the rules of tick and cross, any statement that begins with some, it is called a particular statement. And if in the question part, if in all the statements that are given to us, if all of them are particular, if all of them contain this word some, the conclusion cannot be determined. I cannot have any conclusion. There is going to be no conclusion if all the statements that are there in the question part, if all of them start with some. In that case, my answer cannot be determined, or I cannot have any conclusion out of that particular question. So if I use the rule of tick and cross method, directly I can see that both the statements are some chalks are wires and some chalks are frames. Conclusion given is some frames are wires. Conclusion cannot be determined. So is this conclusion following up? No. This conclusion will not follow up. This conclusion is wrong. Basically, I will not be able to get any conclusion. So my answer will be conclusion cannot be determined, option A. Okay. But if I try to do this using Venn diagram, let's do this using Venn diagram also. Some chalks are wires. Okay, this is how some chalks are wires. Next, some wires are frames. So either some wires or frames can be done in this way, or some wires or frames can be done in this way. In both the cases, some wires are coming out to be frames. But in some but in some case, but in both the cases, some chalk are also becoming frames. Since I'm not having just one Venn diagram, I will not have any conclusion. Since just one Venn diagram is not possible, I will not have any conclusion. So the conclusion that some frames are wires, it cannot be determined. My answer is cannot be determined. Next question. Okay, so this is a gear system that is followed to us, and the display right now is GIFV. That is when the arrow, whatever the alphabet the arrow is showing, that is the display. Now the teeth, they will start rotating, the gears will start rotating. The output of the display depends on the arrangement of the gears. What appears on the display when the third gear is set at R? The third gear is set at R. This gear is set at R. So obviously all of them are going to move the this third gear is going to move in the clockwise direction only. So for the third gear, it is going to have R here. Now since third gear is going to have R, number of movements it has done. It has done 1, 2, 3, 4. First movement R is here, second movement R is here, third movement R is here, fourth movement R comes out here. That means all of them will have to move 4 times in the clockwise direction. 4 times in the clockwise direction. Okay, so first movement, second movement, third movement, fourth movement. That is for second, it is going to be M. Now, third, if we talk about the next gear, if we talk about fourth gear, let's talk about the fourth gear itself. Fourth gear is F, goes out in the clockwise direction. First movement, second movement, third movement, fourth movement. What would come up in the arrow? It would be B. Now, similarly, if we talk about the first, in the clockwise direction, so first movement, second movement, third movement, and fourth movement. What is going to come up on the first gear? First gear would be C. So display will be showing CMRB. Let's match the option. Which option is CMRB? Okay, option number B is CMRB. My answer is B. Next, introducing a man, Rama said He's the only son of my mother's mother. How is the man related to Rama's mother? He is the only son of my mother's mother. So my mother, my mother's mother, is having only one son. But if it is my mother's mother, so that means this person is also a child of the mother. This person is also a child of the mother. But there is only one male child that the mother is having, and the other child is a female. Which means these two people, these are siblings. These two, these are siblings, and these are brother and sisters. So how is the man related to Rama's mother? This man is Rama's mother's brother. These two people, they become sibling. The mother is having only one male child. That male child is, as mentioned in the question, the only son of my mother's mother. The other person, my mother, is the female child. These two, they become sibling. So this man is related to Rama's mother in a way that these two are siblings, and this man is Rama's mother's brother. Answer is option D. Next, okay. For the following question, choose the answer that best completes the comparison. Embarrassed, humiliated, frightened, and what? Okay, so when we look at this particular question, it is actually degree of variation. This is called as degree of variation. And questions of these type are called as analogy question. There's a relation between the first two terms. The same relation would be followed between the next two terms also. So for, embarrassed is slight disappointment on yourself. But if I'm humiliated, a lot of bad things have been said against me. So high level of embarrassment is humiliated. Like I must have dropped water on myself while in a party, so I'm just embarrassed of my action. Slight shy nature it is. But when somebody says too much bad things to me in a party where everyone is looking at me, everybody starts noticing that thing, it becomes a very humiliating action. Similarly, frightened is a slightly less degree, but extreme level of being frightened is terrified. So extreme level of being frightened by something, it's terrified. Like I'm frightened by a mouse, but I'll be terrified if I see a lion. So extreme level of being afraid of something or extreme level of fear, it becomes terrified. Next question. One of these three, A, B, or C, is different from the other two. Identify which is the correct one, or identify which is the different one. First is Mr. Kirloskar Sharma. Okay. If I want to write my name using Mr. and Mrs., I'll be doing Mr. dot the name with a space here, and then with a space, I'll give the surname. So this is going to be the correct format. First is wrong because I don't have a dot or I don't have an abbreviating mark after Mr. So first is wrong. Second, there is spacing. The spacing is given proper, but again, in first there was no space between Mr. and Kirloskar, and this dot or full stop, it was also not there. Next, if you look at, there is no dot plus, although the spacing is there, but there's no dot. So this is also wrong. If I look at the third one, C option, it's Mr. Okay, Mr. is perfect. Then there's a dot also. Okay, space also mentioned. Name also given. Kirloskar. Space also given. Sharma. Okay, correct. C is the only one who is following the format. And no difference cannot be my answer because there is obviously a difference between all three of them. All of three of them are not the same. My answer becomes option C.